There is one question, Freud once confessed, that I have found impossible to answer. What does a woman want? This came from the man who unlocked dreams, mapped the unconscious, and uncovered the repressed instincts buried in man's psyche like bones beneath a war field. And yet, when it came to women, he admitted defeat. This was not modesty. It was a warning. Because to ask, what does she want, is to look straight into the abyss of polarity, masculine and feminine, conscious and unconscious, light and shadow. And the man who asks it, if he's honest, will begin to feel the ground shift beneath him. Because the real question isn't about women, it's about you. Do you know what you are? Do you know what it means to be a man in the presence of the feminine? Do you know your edge, your burden, your silence? This isn't about pickup tactics. It's not about being nice or bad. It's about energy, polarity, depth, and presence. Freud was probing something deeper than romance. He was standing at the threshold of something ancient, something primal. He knew, beneath the ego and the rules of society, that woman is chaos, not in the moral sense, but in the archetypal sense. She is the sea, the unknown, the wild, the womb and the storm. And man, if he is to be anything at all, must learn how to stand in front of that chaos without flinching. Not control it, not run from it, not shame it, but face it. Freud wasn't just confused, he was afraid. Because to truly face the question, what does she want, is to shatter every delusion you carry about safety, comfort, and control. It is to confront the feminine not as a checklist or ideal, but as a force that will test you, rip through you, and reveal whether you have become a man. Not biologically, but energetically, psychologically, mythically. This isn't about understanding women. It's about understanding the mirror they hold. So the real riddle is this: what does she want from you? The answer cannot be spoken. It must be embodied. And that journey begins in the dark, where instincts have been buried, where the boy was shamed, where the man must rise. Most men were never taught how to be men. They were told to be nice, to play fair, to sit still, to say sorry. They were not taught strength, only suppression. They weren't guided through the fire of initiation. They were sedated, scolded, castrated by comfort. So now, they walk around like shadows of themselves. Soft voices, weak eyes, afraid of their own desire. They repress what they feel, hide what they want, and then wonder why no one respects them. But a man who hides from his instincts does not become peaceful. He becomes passive, and that passivity rots his soul. You think she wants you to be harmless, to be agreeable, to be safe. She may say that. She may even believe it. But in her body, what she wants is presence, depth. A man who is awake in his own skin. Not a slave to lust, but not ashamed of it either. Not needy, but not cold. Not trying to impress, but impossible to ignore. She tests you, not to torment you, but to feel where your center is. Will you break when she pulls away? Will you fold when she challenges you? Will you crumble under her chaos? Or will you hold? Not hold her, hold yourself. The truth is brutal. Most men have no core because they've spent their whole lives performing, pleasing, pretending, and in the process, they've lost access to the raw, pulsing edge of their masculinity. You cannot fake this. You cannot act it out. You must become it. You must unlearn the soft conditioning that taught you your instincts were toxic, your desire was dangerous, your assertiveness was aggression. What's dangerous is a man who's cut off from his instincts, because then he's either limp or explosive. But a man who knows his instincts, who owns them, who channels them, he becomes unshakable. That is what she wants, not the shell, the flame inside. Most men try to do attraction. They mimic, they posture, they chase. But attraction is not performance. It is presence. It is tension held in stillness. It is the quiet power of a man who has returned to himself, not to win her, but because he refuses to abandon his own fire. But fire alone is not enough. Even Freud knew this. He saw how men were torn between instinct and repression, between the wild pull of desire and the cold mask of civilization. He called it the conflict within the psyche. A war between the id, pure instinct, and the superego, society's leash. Most men resolve this war by amputating one side. They kill the animal and worship the mask. But this makes them dull, predictable, energetically neutered. Freud didn't want you to repress your instincts. He wanted you to understand them, to transmute them. Because until you do, you will live a split life, half man, half ghost. You'll chase women with hollow gestures, words without charge, touch without presence. The question isn't, how do I make her want me? Freud would laugh at that, because that's not psychology, that's performance. The real question is, what are you doing with your life force? That energy, the very one you've been told to fear, to suppress, to waste, is the same energy that creates attraction. Not by chasing her, but by embodying a charge so deep, she feels it before you speak. Not neediness, not aggression, but a calm, anchored presence that says, I know who I am. Because when you carry your energy correctly, you don't pursue, you pull. Freud never solved it, because it was never meant to be solved. What does a woman want? It was not a question, it was a doorway. Freud wasn't confused, he was honest. He knew that to touch the feminine is to enter a mystery, not to master it. And in doing so, he gave men the greatest gift of all, the call to descend, to go beneath logic, beneath pride, beneath the ego that wants to explain everything away. Freud's riddle was not an error, it was an initiation. Because the moment a man stops trying to solve her and begins to understand himself, his instincts, his longing, his shadow, he begins to embody what she has always been drawn to. Not a checklist, not a performance, but presence. Freud wasn't weak for admitting the mystery. He was brave. He stood at the edge and said, "This is deeper than science. This is older than reason." Because what she wants is not to be analyzed. She wants to be felt. She wants to be met by a man who has entered his own unconscious and returned whole. a man who does not flinch, a man who does not perform, a man who does not ask for her approval, because he stands complete in his own fire. Freud pointed the way. He showed us that attraction is not about charm, it is about charge, not about tactics, but about tension. The riddle still echoes through time, and every man must hear it for himself. What does she want? A man who is alive, awake, and fully himself.